Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is the security news update for February 19th, 2023. In the alerts department, apparently the government in Israel has identified a former special forces guy who, who has been attempting to influence the elections in a wide variety of countries over many, many years. I think there's a lot of people doing that. China, obviously, the U.S. has been caught doing that. So I don't think it's unique, but he is now in trouble, so to speak. And in his case, he's using social media platforms like Twitter, which I think puts pressure on people like Mr. Musk to try to see if he can stop that. I don't think it's easy, but hopefully he will endeavor to do that. And we're also seeing a group, also in the alerts department, we're seeing a group of flaws called Icefall, which are affecting industrial IoT in critical infrastructure. In particular, this is the Schneider Electric Modicom programmable logic controllers that are used in all kinds of things like electric plants and water plants, sewer plants, stuff like that. And it allows for bypassing authentication and executing arbitrary code remotely, neither of which are very good in a situation like that. We've seen a number of intrusions into industrial IoT critical infrastructure. We obviously saw the shutdown of the gas pipeline last year, Colonial Pipeline. And I think the bad guys know that, and they're hoping that they'll get people to pay. Whether they will, they won't, who knows? But unfortunately, I think the industrial IoT guys, the critical infrastructure guys, are probably 20 to 30 years behind where the corporate IT guys are in terms of even simple things like visibility into their network. And part of that is, a lot of the equipment is, 20 or 30, 40 years old, and it doesn't have the capabilities that, newly developed stuff does. It doesn't get refreshed very often. You can't take it offline to fix it. It's a real problem. In the reference department, the National Security Agency has released a guide on IPv6 security. If you are deploying IPv6 in your corporate network or thinking about it, good reading. It's not very long, about 7 pages. In the patches department, Apple is patching what is being called an actively exploited 0-day in iOS and Mac OS. It also affects iPad OS and Safari and tvOS. Every Apple product they're all run the same stuff. And since it takes Apple about a month to push stuff out, if you are paranoid or a high risk group, it probably would behoove you to go off and deploy the patches now. CISA is also alerting on that patch plus 3 more Windows patches. These are true 0 days, meaning they are being exploited in the wild. And CISA has given federal executive branch agencies until March 7th to patch. That's really way longer than they should. You need to patch long before March 7th, but my fear is that the executive branch agencies won't get it done even by March 7th. So for you, what you want to do, you don't have to run faster than the bear, just the guy in front of you. So if they wind up hacking the feds instead of hacking you, well, so be it, but you're protected. As I said last week in an item, just because it's useful to you doesn't mean it's legal. And what we're seeing now is Cedars-Sinai Hospital in LA is the latest organization getting sued over collecting data in violation of the privacy rules. And we're seeing there's a proposed class action in case of them claiming negligence, breach of contract, violation of several California privacy and business laws related to the use of tracking code on websites and stuff. If you're tracking people, if you're collecting data, now would be a really good time to figure out whether or not what you're doing breaks state laws. Nothing breaks federal laws because you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want. But if you have customers inside of states, which is where most customers are, then you better worry about what's going on with the states. And what we're seeing now, we now have 5 states with second generation privacy laws. They vary a lot in terms of what they cover, who they cover, how they cover. So, it'd be useful to go off and look at what you're doing and figure out whether you need help there. Again, if you need help, obviously we'd be happy to help you. Next, a Russian national with ties to Putin got convicted in Boston for insider trading. He made $90 million doing this, they claim. And what he did basically was steal earnings reports before they were released, and then trade, up or down on the news, and apparently made a bucket of money. But this guy apparently, as we see with a lot of crooks, and this is a good thing for us, is not very bright. And he took his family's private jet and flew to Switzerland to go skiing, because that's what you do when you are a big time scammer. Unfortunately, either he's really dumb, really arrogant, or didn't know the U.S. was onto him. And of course, when he hit customs in Switzerland, they offered him a nice, quiet, padded cell to sit in. He was extradited to Boston, and now he faces a maximum of 50 years in jail now that he's been convicted. In the education department, Tom Brady and his wife, Giselle, our ex-wife, I guess, Giselle, are learning the hard way about cryptocurrency. They were both investors in FTX and spokespeople for them. They are now also defendants in lawsuits, accusing them of not doing their due diligence, which, it sounds like they didn't, because FTX was a house of cards, and anybody who invested in that either wasn't very bright or didn't do any due diligence. Their investment in FTX was worth $84 million at the peak. We have no idea how much they actually invested, but let's say it was $5 or $10 million. For Brady, that's not a big deal, but still, getting dragged into these lawsuits is not a great deal. The moral of the story is here: if you're going to go off and shill for somebody, make sure you understand who you're shilling for. Next, in the education department, we're seeing an attack on gift cards, which I thought I understood, but actually didn't understand, and now do. And there's a video, link to the video in the newsletter this week. But basically, how the scam works is you go buy a gift card, say it's an Amazon gift card, put $20 on it, go home, take a picture of the barcode, and print the barcode on a bunch of little labels. You then go back to the store, swipe a bunch of unactivated gift cards, take them out to your car, put the barcodes on them, and stash them, back in the stack after you stick your barcode on it. And then when someone activates it, apparently the register system is not very bright and doesn't realize the card was already activated. It figures, oh, he just wants to put more money on the card, and lets you do it. Well, unfortunately, the barcode that you're putting the money on is the scammer's barcode, not your barcode. And so the scammer gets the benefit of you doing that. It's relatively speaking easy to detect, because barcodes that are printed on the card itself have a bit of a raised edge to them. And also you should be able to see the sticker. It's going to be a different color and stuff than the actual card itself. So, word to the wise. And I've also seen some of the barcodes now that have a tear strip over the barcode itself, which is designed to thwart that particular kind of attack. You have to rip the tab off the package before you can activate the card. So if you see a card that has the tear strip torn, don't use it. Get a different one. In the data breaches department, and there, like I said, there's a video where CBS is showing exactly how that works. In the breaches department, the cities of Oakland and Modesto, California, were hit by ransomware attacks. Oakland, in the best history of spin doctors, said they learned that they were recently subject to a ransomware attack. I'm not sure exactly how they learned about it. Maybe they read about it in the newspaper. But they said that 911 is still working, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, their colleagues in Modesto can't say the same thing, and their cops are instead using handheld radios to communicate, and the computers in the cop cars and stuff are not working. So a bit of a dumpster fire for these guys. I think the moral of the story is come clean. because you'll get outed one way or the other if you don't. Also, in the hacking department, Israel's premier technical university, Technion, was hit by ransomware. Amongst other things, they are delaying final exams, which I'm sure the students are really saddened about. The hackers wanted 80 bitcoins. I'm not sure how much a bitcoin is worth now. Maybe, I guess it's gone up a little bit, but not certainly what it was worth before. Unfortunately for the hackers, the Technion said, no, thanks, but we're not going to go do that. And instead, they called Israel's National Cyber Defense Directorate, who is helping them. And I'm guessing that that's probably not an organization you, as a hacker, want after you, although I suspect the hackers are probably in Russia. So unless they want to go off and do a kidnapping in Russia, and I don't think even Israel is inclined to go do that. I think they're probably out of the reach of law enforcement. Back in the United States, the largest Pepsi bottler in the U.S., Pepsi Bottling Ventures LLC, which runs 18 bottling plants, mostly on the East Coast, was hit by a cyber attack. These guys hit the mother lode. The data that they stole included name, address, financial account information, including passwords, PINs, and access numbers, driver's license, state ID card, social security numbers, passport information, digital signatures, health information. I mean, just a pot full of information. The good news is that Pepsi has the resources. This is a Pepsi bottler, so this is not PepsiCo, but even this big bottler has the resources to go off and write the multi-million-dollar checks that they're going to wind up writing. But the problem is, unlike a credit card, which is easy to replace, replacing your passport, convincing the State Department to issue you a new passport with a different number, that's hard to do. So they don't want to do that. So you hire an expert, maybe a lawyer, if you're one of those people who's affected. Keep good receipts and prepare to get in line suing these guys. Next, also in the breach department, telecommunication carriers are apparently the target du jour. T-Mobile, Verizon, U.S. Cellular, and then most recently AT&T, which lost 37 million records, which were being stored by a third party, big surprise, and CGM, which is a third party vendor to an affordable connectivity program that the feds run. Total about 74 million people were affected by these breaches. The FCC is apparently not happy, and FCC Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel says that they need to update the regulations. That can't be good for the carriers. The only thing that could potentially work in the carriers' favor is right now there are 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats on the commission. So they're going to have to work together, which is something that politicians are not great at doing. But still, I suspect that they will do something, maybe not the ultimate thing that some people might like, but it is going to be increased oversight. In the daily news posts, we have a challenge with deep fake revenge porn. It's been around for a while, but it's getting easier and cheaper. In this particular item, there was a Twitch streamer, and they're notorious for going after each other, including swatting attacks in some cases where the cops have shot people just because everybody's adrenaline is running, and the cops aren't effectively trained in how to do this. In this particular case, this was a deep fake porn video. One streamer was caught on a live stream with a deep fake porn site on the screen. The URL was apparently visible, and a different streamer who was, I guess, somebody that he wasn't happy with was showing on the screen. He had paid for it, which he admitted to, buying deep fake porn video of her. It hasn't, we'll see what happens from a criminal standpoint. I'm guessing, it really depends on the state that you're in as to what's legal and what's not legal. But the law really hasn't caught up on this. And in the meantime, her life is in a bit of a shambles. And certainly she's embarrassed and upset, and you know, we shall see. But the challenge here is, right, given that these are easily available and don't cost a lot of money, you know, somebody gets mad at one of your family members or a loved one or whatever, could put you in the boat where they decided they're going to go out and buy some deep fake porn videos of you or a family member and post them publicly, and then you get to explain to everybody that that's really not you. Not the greatest thing to do. Next, Google is trying to keep their money coming in. I don't think they have a problem in the short term, but with all the various state privacy laws and the number of people who are doing ad blocking and things like that, they're trying to come up with a different solution that still allows them to sell your data to advertisers, but in a perhaps more palatable way. They're just deploying a test environment on Android 13. We shall see how it works. The past couple of items they came up with ideas have not passed muster, but maybe this one will be the one. So if you're either an advertiser or someone who's being advertised to, you might want to keep an eyeball on that, especially if you're an advertiser. As I said earlier, attacks on critical infrastructure are increasing significantly, dramatically, and the defenders are really struggling. The problem is that the defense is about 20 to 30 years behind where the defense is in corporate IT. The systems are way less capable because a lot of them are 20 and 30 years old. And you know, they don't have a lot of headroom inside the system to go run extra software. The option to turn things off when things go bad is really not there, because you can't shut a plant down. That does not work. And if you shut down a particular computer, well, possibly, let's say we don't add any chemicals to the water. That's probably not a good plan. So it's a real challenge. They've got to figure it out. They don't have any really good ideas at this point. But excuse me, now that we're seeing the attacks going up, they're going to have to go figure it out. And lastly, in the security news bites, the Black Hat hacking group that hacked a family of Irish universities gave the university a deadline last week to pay up. The university said no thanks, and these guys have leaked about 6 terabytes worth of personal information of students and staff of the university. So I'm sure that will cost the university a pretty penny. That does sound like something that is covered by GDPR. There's also something now called adversarial facial recognition, which I find fascinating. These guys have created a line of clothing with really, really busy patterns on it, lots of pictures, in their case, of different animals, from dogs and cats to lions and tigers and bears, oh my. And the facial recognition apparently gets confused, doesn't know which one is the real face, which one's not the real face. And at least half the time, maybe more, the facial recognition gets it wrong as a result of that, which I think is interesting. The crypto mixer Blender, which was sanctioned by the Treasury several months ago, has now risen from the dead. It's called Sinbad. They have already blended about $90 million of cryptocurrency to make it hard to find. And even if the feds go off and sanction these guys, they'll just come up with a new name at a new IP address and rinse and repeat. So that's a cat and mouse game. You know, I think the feds need to go off and sanction these guys, and I'm sure will, but they're not going to win the battle. The best they can hope for is a stalemate. The Kia Hyundai group is rolling out software updates to make their cars less easy to steal. Apparently, there are a number of models from some of the a little bit older model years that were super easy to steal. Some of them there's a software fix for, some of them there's not. The motivation on the part of Hyundai Kia Group is that the insurance companies say, we're not going to insure the cars because they're too high risk. That's a real problem. Would you go buy a car where it says, gee, you're not going to be able to get car insurance? No, I don't think so. Threema has rolled out a totally new encryption algorithm Threema, for those of you who aren't familiar with them, is an encrypted messaging app. They, on one hand, say, "Oh, well, this flaw, it's not really a problem," and oh yeah, by the way, we're rolling out a completely new encryption algorithm. So I think they are protesting too much, and in fact is a serious problem. And lastly, the EU Parliament is urging the European Commission not to approve the new EU-US privacy deal. The challenge there is the EU folks are asking the US to do things that they don't have to do. And that's just not going to fly. The US is not going to go off and do that. It's just not going to happen. So the US has made some concessions. I think this deal is a better deal. But if you're asking the intelligence community not to do intelligence, well, why don't you go ask your own intelligence community not to do intelligence and see what kind of response you get? Of course, they very creatively wrote the law so their own intelligence entities are not covered by it, but other countries' intelligence entities are covered by it. No country's intelligence agency is going to be willing to go off and say, no, 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 we're not going to do no stinking spying. That's not going to happen. I'm not sure how the various countries like India that have what are called adequacy decisions got around that. I think that it's just that the U.S. is bigger and a bigger target. But I think this is a problem, and this is something that the EU is just going to have to figure out what they're going to do about, because this problem is not going to go away. If we can help you with any of these things, please give us a holler. And until next time, stay safe. Thanks for listening.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.